Got Daniel coming on. Dan coming on sideways and muting himself.
Okay, Ami fans, welcome back to a long-awaited, brand new episode of the Dirty Old Podcast with Rousey. How are we doing, Rousey?
Yes. Big up your chest, Salford fans.
We've got the one up front host, Danny Shepherd. How are we doing, pal?
How do?
See that? A little cheeky plug even on this podcast
Cheeky
as well
plug.
for you.
Cheers for that.
To the tens and tens of people. And welcome back
It's a
to
work in progress, Coops. It's a work in progress.
As always, mate. As always. And we've got Gav back. How are we doing, Gav?
Not bad yourself?
Well, had a stressful week, but I won't go into it. I won't bore everybody with my problems in life.
Good.
But at least, yeah, good. We don't want to hear it. But at least I think we've got a lot of positive things to talk about with Salford going into the last 9 games. So, but yeah, everybody had a good week. To be fair, it's Friday night. We usually record these. In the past, it's been Thursdays, and we moved to Wednesdays, and then we got a bit lazy. I got a bit lazy. I'll take it for the team.
You take it.
Probably it's my fault. We're doing it on a Friday night, so you won't hear this till Saturday morning. So, how's everybody's week been? All good? Any funny stories to tell?
No.
Oh, right. We'll move on then, shall we?
Yeah.
Just a quick one. For those who listen to the Dirty Old Podcast that hasn't yet listened to Danny's podcast, he's done his own podcast as a soloist called the One Up Front Podcast. So I had a listen. I know the Gav and Rousey have had a listen to it as well. And look, if you wanna listen to
stay well clear. Sorry, no, I'm joking.
I think what this podcast brings. I think what the Dirty Old Podcast brings is kind of what we've wanted it to be is kind of keep it as an overview. And I know the reason why we got Danny on this podcast in the first place is because he does like to talk about things a little bit more in depth when it comes to the matches and looks at games in a different angle that we do in terms of looks at the tactical aspect. So if you are somebody who wants to listen to a more of an in-depth analysis on, I know Danny's going to do podcast episodes, I believe, before games and after games. Danny, is that right?
Probably, yeah. I might not do like before, after, and then a full one, but I'll just see what time allows. But at least one per game. That's the plan to the end of the season, and then review it. Yeah.
Just see how it evolves, mate. Just see how it evolves. But give it a listen. Hopefully everyone, like this podcast. Some people love it. Some people hate it.
Who hates it? You tell me one person that hates this podcast.
Jerry Mungo does not like this podcast. We know who.
Big shout, Jezza.
He comments on the YouTube.
He does. Post. Bless him.
If anybody says they don't like it, though, we'll find you.
Does he go to a match?
You'll find out.
Anybody who doesn't like the podcast, will send Rousey and windmilling.
Yeah. Which type of windmill? Which type of windmill do you want me to do?
The ones in Amsterdam, mate, I believe. Just like blowing in the wind.
Good stuff.
Okay, fellas, it's Friday night. Let's get this podcast done. So, to be fair, we've had. We're going to look at the last 3 games, and before we come to Crewe, we'll just quickly mention it before we go into that game. But it's kind of like the little blip in the last 3 games that we've had. I mean, what seems to be a reoccurring theme, which is a massive positive, is look back at our last couple of seasons. We've always been the team that's had a solid defence, one of the best defence records in the league each season, but we can't score for love and money. And this time, certainly, I was saying certainly the turn of 2023, we just seem to be a team that I'm going into games now thinking we're going to score more than 1. We're going to score at least 2 goals. We're not really scoring 1 goal, but I think it's obviously making us a little bit vulnerable at the back because we're trying to be fluid. We're trying to be attacking.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into in depth. I'm not going to steal Danny's thunder from his podcast, but we obviously attacking more, and you can see in the last 3 games we've scored 10 goals, which is good, but we've also conceded 5. So there's still work to be done. But Danny, I know it seems like ages ago since we played Newport, and it was a good game from what I can remember. I've not gone through all the games again and gone through all the highlights again, but it was convincing in the end, wasn't it?
It was, and yeah, there was a slight threat to steal thunder there, but I only because I agree with the fact that I rewatched the highlights today because it was so long ago. I'm not memory recall, total recall. So and I forgot we actually conceded first, which we did. But exactly what you were saying there, Martin, I was just like, well, and it's not over. There's been points in this season where if we conceded first, we'd be thinking, okay, what time's the earliest I can kind of get out of here. But the fact we won 3-1, great. I think Elliot Watt, if I remember rightly, I was looking at the notes. He got flattened and knocked out in the game, which was a bit of a concern. But it is one of the best things in the game was his chip for Hendry's goal, where Hendry kind of knocked it against a defender and then finally finished it. That equalised it. McElhenney's goal, the second. I don't think anybody else, apart from Louis Barry when he gets his shooting boots on, could possibly have scored that second goal. Because who's got that kind of balance on the ball and clinical finish? I'm not sure who else we've got with the second goal. And the third one was just a Smith, a fluffed header that he should have probably cleared off the line. So I kind of just, although I know I've not got a massive amount of time, that was the why we won. We scored more goals than Newport, but one of the things I've talked about it in my posts is we seem to be brilliant at playing against teams who were 3-5-2. We've actually played about 3 or 4 teams in the last few weeks that have all played 3-5-2. And we've kind of played what most internet sites would say, and maybe Gav would say, is like a 4-3-3. You can break it up into different ways, but we kind of do that. But he seems to pick a specific team against any 3-5-2 opposition. And it always includes Bolton and Barry. It always includes Hendry and not Smith. And McElhenney's not on the pitch either. So he seems to have decided that he wants to give other teams a choice of where they want to give us space. Because I know we're not covering the Mansfield game, but Mansfield got it really wrong because they played 3-5-2, but they had their wing backs pushed up into midfield. What did we do? Push it down the channels. Bolton and Barry looked amazing. Yeah. And then Barrow did the opposite. They thought, oh, well, we'll learn from that. We'll get our wing backs as a back five. We had a bit more trouble though. We only got a draw. I think against Newport, they technically still played a back three, but I thought they made it more difficult than either of those other two teams. So I don't know if you guys kind of want to chip in on that, because that's apart from that, there's not a great deal that springs to mind. Partly because it's quite a while ago. Yeah. Because they weren't a great team to face, really. They're not a very strong opposition.
No, we always seem to do okay against Newport, whether it be home or away, which is good. Or I was going to say promising, but we've already beat them. But yeah, no, I think it was a good day's work for us. We dominated possession, dominated the shots in that game, dominated the shots on target and off target. So you'd say it's a good day at the office. I think, yeah, tactically, Dan's probably got it spot on with the lineups and the formations. I don't go too in depth or look into that too much, but you're probably right in what you're saying. I think Neil Wood probably got that particular system for that type of team spot on. If results are what you're saying, Dan, in that particular formation, and we seem to pick up, and Louis Barry and Bolton tend to attack the flanks, and that's where we get our joy. But yeah, it was quite a while ago. But yeah, like I just said there, it probably just a standard but good day at the office, a good home victory, which is what you would probably expect pre-kick-off against Newport. I'd be devastated if they come and dominated possession, shots on, shots off, and got the win, because we do generally do quite well against them.
Gav, have you got anything to add to that, mate?
To be quite honest, I can't remember it that well at all. When you mentioned it earlier on, I was like, "Oh, did we play them recently?" That's what I honestly thought. If I remember right, I think, like I said, they did look poor, and it was a bit of a boring game to a certain extent. But other than that, there's nothing comes to mind, to be honest. I honestly can't remember it.
I think, I mean, it was a comfortable win. From what I remember overall, it was a comfortable win. We never really looked. I know we conceded there, but I remember watching the game, not worrying that we're not going to win the game. I always knew that we'd come out on top. I mean, if we have it right, Newport are not the team this season that they kind of been in the last season or two, where they are.
No.
We have had good success against them, but they don't make it easy. And I thought when we played them, they didn't really offer that much. And now that whether that's because we're stronger, then I don't know what the reasons are behind that. But again, we seem to be playing what seems to be what I'm noticing. It would be very easy for any team to look at our results and go, look, they've got plenty of goals. I think we're second at the moment in terms of goals scored in the league. And it'd be very, very easy to come to the Peninsula, knowing that we're a team that scores goals and sit up behind the ball. I think some teams do that. And in the past, that's always been a problem for us to try and break down. But I just don't think we're having that issue at the moment. I think at the moment, anybody that's coming to the Peninsula, they know they're going to get a game, and they can set up however they like. They can sit behind the ball. But with Barry and Bolton on the wings, there's just a lot of pace and everything else that's in between. We've got Elliot Watt, who's having a tremendous season, and Galbraith as well. He's really sort of can sometimes go unnoticed, I think, sometimes, because maybe he's not always getting the assist, but he does a lot of work. There's so much going on in that team. It's just really good to watch at the moment. So coming out the Newport game then, 3-1, and we're thinking, right, Crewe, all right, it's away from home, but Crewe are dismal, and it should be an easy game. But Gav, 4-3 losers, mate. What happened?
We should have known what was going to happen, to be honest, because before the match we went in this chippy, and I had chips, curry, and a sausage. Yeah, and it looked quite good. It did. Oh, it looked, but it was horrible. It was. I didn't even finish it, so it was obviously about to have a bad ending to a night after that. And
good review, Gav. Good review of the game.
But yeah, no, like I've only just started.
Gav, sorry, I wanted a review of the game, not the local chip shop.
Wrong cast. Yes, so yeah, no, it was.
That's the dirty old fish and chips podcast, Gav. That one, you're on the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm not sorry about that. It was a weird night. I came away shocked. I came away thinking, what have I just seen? Because we started off excellent, I thought, in control. They look like schoolboys to a certain extent. Whereas when you go and play Crewe, Crewe's a good footballing town, should we call it? And they're always on the front foot. They were off the pace. First half an hour, we was just all over. We was in control. We was knocking it left, right, centre. Luke Bolton, ever give it him. He had the going of his man. So every time it went over to Bolton on the right, it was down the wing, and they were having his left back had to have someone to help him. So there's 2 or 3 on the left back at most of the time, because Luke Bolton was just skinning him. And I was thinking, oh, this is excellent, this. And we go 1-0 up, and I was like, what's just happened there? Obviously, they get a penalty, which was a penalty.
Yeah, it was a penalty. Yeah.
And then I think Leek give the ball to the midfield or whatever it were, and then it's 2-1. I'm like, what's just gone on here? From feeling comfortable with 2-1 behind, I was like, oh my God. I think I was stood next to you, Anthony. I was like, I looked at it, went, what's gone on? Then anyway, so Hendry's playing. Hendry, I thought he was very lively, back to beginning of season, a lot of good movement, getting into the gaps, getting into the spaces. Thought it was fantastic. His goal was like a nice acrobatic goal, get us back 2-2. And you're thinking, yes, we're on the front foot again. We're back in this. We can have this. This is our game. We're about to score. We're about to maybe get 1, maybe get 2, and we're about to win this. Not a problem. I could just feel it. A couple of things which derailed my feeling of getting them 2 goals was every time they attacked, our defence was about a metre off, and we weren't close to them. We weren't closing them down. They could get the ball to their feet, they could turn, and then they could decide what they were about to do, whether they were about to pass it or whether they were about to run at us. We weren't actually defensively on the front foot against them. The next one was, maybe disagree or undisagree. I'm sorry, Neil, I know you watch this, but Neil Wood actually lost us that game. And I'll explain now. So we had a midfield of Watt and Lund, and Galbraith tends to run about everywhere. So normally in front of Watt, runs around everywhere. On the 58th minute, Mallon came on for Lund, and I've listened obviously to Daniel's podcast, which was not about Crewe, was about Doncaster. And Dan does describe Mallon as a defensive midfielder with Watt. Never in my life would I ever describe Mallon as a defensive midfielder, but he did bring him on in that position. Then he takes Watt off for Smith on 70 minutes. So we currently, and the other one was Morton came on for Barry. So we currently chasing. We're at 2-2. We're chasing a goal, and we've got 102 people up front, and we've got a really, really weak, scurry defence, and we got no one in the middle of the park. We're what was. So we got the goal, and we're like, oh yes, cracking goal from Mallon, wasn't it? Long range. I think it moved about and what have you, and fantastic. But they just came straight back at us, and they were just getting at us, and I blame mind you all day, because what wasn't on the pitch? We had no defensive midfielder on the pitch, or no middle. Mallon was, they were passing past Mallon, he was looking with, I'm not quite 100% fit, and my job's up here creating goals and scoring goals. I'm not, buddy. And it looked as though you could run past Mallon just for sweets if you wanted. Chuck a sweet to him, he'd eat it, and you just carry on running, sort of thing. As in, not saying he's not interested or he's not a good defensive footballer, but his football is going forward. We didn't have anyone just in front of our defence who were giving them space. So that's where I think we lost it, because of them changes. Going away with a 2-2 draw probably would have been better for us. 3-2 was fantastic and we should have won. But the substitutions, I think, lost us that game. And I think we just give it away because we was in control. And I'll shut up now because I've been jabbering on.
I think what coming off, there must have been a very, very valid reason unbeknownst to us, because
what for Smith?
If not though, Gav, I agree with you. That is a massive mistake in my opinion, and I agree with you if that's the case, because no matter, it doesn't matter whether Luke's playing a 6 out of 10 game. He's probably the first person that you kind of that can just put that one ball into a place where we can score a goal. And I think that being said though, Gav, without what on the pitch, we went 3-2 up. So we've got ourselves in a position where we score. And what actually pleased, I remember watching the game because I don't go to away games, as you know. And I watched it on the iPlayer, and I was saying, I had my head in my hands going, what the hell's going on? And when Stevie Mallon scored, I went from down here thinking, oh, playoffs are gone, to going, we're going to get playoffs. And I seen everybody running. Cairns came running up, and I thought, what team spirit. And I felt alive. I felt just the way that reacted. I thought, they want this, they want it. And then it all changed very quickly, didn't it? 2 minutes later.
They startled us.
That's what I'm saying. At that point, if we would have had our normal sort of team structure, and it's 4 at the back, one holding his midfielder, and the other 2 a little bit thingy. But we didn't. We had 102 up front, so we was always about to get that goal. We could have probably got 3 or 4 goals, apart from they've gone, actually, we kick it forward and run. We can go at these, and that's all they did. They weren't a decent team. They just got forward at us, and like you say, and if they didn't do that and they sat back and thought, oh damn, they're a better team, we probably would have scored another 6.
It was one of those games. It was one. I think it was just, look, you get this in the season, don't you? As good as you think you are, I think it really was one of those games where this is what I'm talking about. We seem to score loads of goals at the moment. We're scoring goals, but we're conceding, and I think the point I'm trying to make there is we played all right. We played well for the first 30 minutes, looking in control. Bolton was having the better of his man. But for 60 minutes that game, we scored 3 goals overall, and we still lost the game. You know, to score 3 goals away from when we thinking we're going to win this game, it shows the team like Crewe, you're getting beat 4-3, shows how good we was going forward because we scored 3 goals, but how poor we was. It's absolute polar opposite performances all in one game. And I don't think we'll see that. I don't think we'll see that type of a performance in the last 9 games. Fingers crossed. Let's hope.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree 100%. It's just like if Watt wasn't injured and we didn't have anyone else come on, I think it was a massive mistake chasing that goal.
I agree.
That's what I'm pointing at. And at the end of the day, it goes down to Neil Wood. And like I say, is how many times I give Neil Wood stick. Like I said, where he's got us at this moment in time today, we're in a fantastic position, and it's all down to Neil, his staff, and the team working hard. So like I said, but were there somewhere I can pick at him? I'll pick.
Gav, was that a little pun there that you missed? You went Neil Wood gives some stick. Anyway, I'll move on very swiftly. You look stressed after that, Gav. You look very stressed.
No, it really woke me up that game because, like I say, I went through all the emotions from my chips, curry, and sausage.
It all stemmed from the chips, sausage, and curry sauce.
Then I was really excited for 30 minutes. Then I thought, what's just gone on with our defence? So we just conceded 2. Then the penalty was just what it was. He ended it, he booted him in his leg. These things happen. But like I say, it just went. It was like a roller coaster, and like I say, I was really stressed. Like I say, I walked away thinking, "What have I just watched?"
Well, look, we obviously it was a very disappointing, especially when you're trying to get into secure that playoff position. Top 3, it's mathematically it's still there, but
yeah, do you know what? He's still talking about it, Neil Wood, getting that automatic.
He's got to set his bar high.
Talking about it,
but that's why I think it was disappointing. We thought Crewe. Well, when we looked at the beginning of the month, we thought, well, yeah, Crewe, that's 3 points. Okay, yeah, all right. Doncaster, depends what they turn up. Newport, yeah, we'll get a win. Then we've got Stevenage. We're trying to work out the points, and Crewe was one of those where you thought 3 points. But we go into the Doncaster game, Rousey, and all we're asking for is a bit of bounce back ability, didn't we?
Yeah. I think, like you just said, we said that couldn't happen again, and there needed to be a response from that, and the manner it came as well. Defensively, towards the end of that Crewe game, we were all over the shop, so I think that they needed to kind of shore things up there, and yeah, it was actually a very, very good game of football. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the way we played. It was a win that's obviously kept us on track for the playoffs. And at the end of it, Neil Wood, like I've just said there, he mentioned that we still actually got one eye slyly on that last automatic. Mansfield's drop in form has helped us massively because I think they had a couple of games in hand on us, didn't they, after the Doncaster game? But I think they drew them both, or lost one and drew one.
They still got
they still got one, so we can drop out. But obviously, the games, our next 3 that we've got are all teams in and around us, which is good. So, yeah, like I just said there, win that kept us on track for the playoffs. I thought Luke Bolton had a very, very good game. I think he has for a bit now. I think, like Dan mentioned earlier, him and Louis Barry seems to have found a bit of momentum at the right time of the season for me. They're doing the right things with the ball now as well. I think we've mentioned Bolton getting in positions and just drilling it aimlessly across the box, not really looking. And we had a bit of a debate of whether that was intentional or whether he was headless chicken. But I think it's showing that, he's either the team's clicking and realising now what he wants to do and how he plays. And like I said, it's paying off. And I think he's got a lad on the other side of the pitch that understands his game in Louis Barry, because I think he's getting him into some good positions with similar crosses, a lot of them low into the box. Bolton arriving late, back post and putting them in. So, yeah, again, good day at the office. I know we're going to speak about Hendry in a bit, but I think he pressed really well. He was energetic. Again, Gav mentioned it earlier. It's like he was in those first 6 or 7 games of the season, bit between his teeth. He's been given another chance now over Smith. He's been told that. I think that's showing and that's portraying on the pitch. He's we're very, very energetic up top, and two really, really good goals in the setup in the play. Bolton's first. I know they equalised, and then Bolton's second, and Mallon's was a bit of a fluke, really, wasn't it? Like I said, he's drilled it from long range and a bit of an howler from the keeper, but beat a good Doncaster team, in my opinion. Like I said, they're a tricky team to beat. They did us at home, so I'm glad we got one back on them. But no, yeah, it was good, and like I've just said there, the other results that week or that weekend went our way as well. So, we're still there, we're still kicking in the playoffs, and I think the next 3 games are going to be massive for us. Is it Stevenage, Stockport, and then Orient coming up? So, like I said, I think if we can get a couple of wins out of those 3, I think will put us in good stead, certainly for the playoffs, like I said. But I think, I think Woody's talking about winning as many of those games as possible and maybe snatching that 3rd place. But no, the Doncaster game, good home. Again, like I said earlier with the Newport victory, it was a good home performance. Didn't put a lot wrong or many things wrong at the back, which is what you want to see. Created a lot, busy up front. And the midfield did the job. They controlled the game, and we didn't let them back in it. I think towards the end of the game, we were actually the better team, probably looking for another. Again, don't know if anyone wants to add to it, but yeah, it was just a good home performance, in my opinion.
Go on, Daddy.
I was just going to say, I actually caught you on the shoulder, didn't I, Martin, on the way out, and I said, this Doncaster haven't offered very much today, have they? You know what I mean? And we seem to agree on that they were one of the more disappointing teams going forward that we've seen.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't. And again, I don't. I mean, obviously there was mid-table going into that game. I could somebody be happy to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was 6 points behind. If they had beaten us, they would have been 3 points behind. And it turns out, obviously, that we drifted when we won the game 9 points away. And I think that's kind of, it's a big difference between, if they beat Salford, they're in touching distance, or they've got an opportunity to get into to just add a little bit of competition to get into that playoff spot. I think now that they've drifted away again, I think for them, reading
it's going to be tough for them. It's going to be tough for them. They've got to put together a hell of a run to get into it, and hope that the few teams that are above them drop points. But
I mean, the thing is now, there's only a few games left, and I say few, but it's more than a few. But there's 9, maybe 10 games left for people.
Oh,
9. We were speaking German on this podcast as well. There isn't a lot of time left to start putting a run together.
3.7 months.
But do you know what? I think if we look at the teams around Salford, again, Stockport County dropping in form a little bit. I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. Carlisle are dropping points. Stevenage are not in the best forms. We'll come on to Stevenage.
Mansfield again.
Mansfield have had a great opportunity to really push themselves for like maybe 4th and just sitting in behind 3rd. And they've blown it. They're imploding. And I was listening to. I wasn't going to speak about Mansfield, but I couldn't help myself. Now it's just come to my mind. I listened to who did Mansfield play? Was it Tuesday or Wednesday night? Wednesday against Grimsby, wasn't it?
Grimsby won it, yeah.
Yeah, 0-0. And I listened. Mansfield was at home. I listened to Nigel Clough's post-match interview, and the first thing he said was, "It was good that they kept a clean sheet. We all want to keep clean sheets. That's step 1, isn't it? Keep a clean sheet. You don't lose. Good." And then it goes to show Salford seemed to be living in his head rent-free, because his next comment was, "I just wish we drew 0-0 with Salford." And I think what he meant by that, we've got a +5 goal difference on Mansfield. I know they've got a game in hand, 2 points behind, but we're a 5+ goal difference. And I think what he means by that, obviously, that 5-2 win was a 6-goal swing, wasn't it? We score 3, they can see 3, it's a 6-goal swing. And I think that's probably what he meant, that, he wished he had a 0-0 against Salford, but he didn't, because he was poor on the day and we won 5-2. Sorry, Cloughie, but that's the way it is. It's football, mate.
It's Cloughie. We know you watch the podcast.
Of course he does. He wants to be Salford manager one day. But no, fantastic result. And to Danny's point, we caught there. They look poor, Doncaster.
Yeah.
Yes, they scored a goal, a fantastic finish in the top corner. No keeper saving that one.
No.
But that little reverse pass that put it into George Miller's feet, to me, and I know we keep on pointing the finger at Toure. He was standing in between Toure and Leak. But for me, I got the impression that Toure was looking at the man. He could see he was the best person to see the man on the ball. And generally, I don't think he actually expected that pass to be played in. I don't think many people did, because it was a good pass. It was a good pass. It was a good finish. But it was just sloppy. We lost the ball in midfield by which is unusual, but it's one of them things. But look, we again, Stephen Mallon, don't shoot, you don't score. Perfect example. And obviously Louis Barry sets one up right, soon after in the second half for Luke Bolton. And I'll go back to Louis Barry when he first came to Salford. He was playing him on the right wing, and he was absolutely dreadful. I remember his first game; he had 3 touches, and every 3 touch was like going everywhere. And now that you put him in the left wing, ever since he's moved onto that left, he's been faultless. I don't mean faultless; that's a bit too far, but he's now showing the type of player that he can be. I know, Danny. I know you want to chirp in there.
When he was on the right wing, he was a bit like Rousey's windmill.
It was.
Good reviews, guys. Good reviews. We're on the way up. Wood's taking us up the leagues. One of the things I want to talk about before we go into Stevenage and Stockport is a couple of reasons why I want to talk about Hendry today. Why Hendry? Why not anybody else? But a few reasons. Gav's back on the podcast, so I wanted to make him feel special because he obviously made a point on his last podcast that he did with us, or the podcast previous, where he was talking about when Smith has scored 5 and 6 goals, that it was time for a change in Hendry. Maybe we should be bringing Hendry back in. And me and Danny was pretty firm in saying no. But I think
Neil said yeah.
So I'm going to put it out to you. I've got my own opinions, but I want you to talk about Hendry. I want you to look at obviously Hendry's impact, certainly in the last sort of 3, 4, 5 games. What the differences are, what he can bring to the table other than what Smith can bring. So who wants to take the front on this one?
Because it's my man. And should I go?
Yeah, we'll go on, Gav. Let's hear your points, because obviously
I think it's quite simple, and I think it's actually, Martin, you mentioned this previously, so I'm giving you a bit of a reward for letting me go first. So yeah, you have mentioned it, but for me, providing that Bolton's fit, Watt's fit, Barry's fit, and Mallon's fit, our creative play, and obviously Galbraith, our creative players, Neil Wood has got a team he can pick which players his way. So I think you said in the past, Matt Smith probably isn't a Neil Wood sort of player in his perfect team. So now he's got these players back and he's got these picking. I think if them players are fit tomorrow, that Hendry will start again and Smith won't start. Whilst we've got the Mallon, the Boltons, the Barry's fit, it's sort of Wood sort of football. He likes move a ball, let's pass a ball. That's my 2 pence worth with that bit. I think it's the options he's now got. I think it just makes sense to play Hendry and Rousey, and obviously Danny can talk about Hendry's positive attributes. But that's the reason why I think he'll play over Smith.
Go on, Dan.
Oh, I've said it before. I've said it in a post that I think a few of us have agreed that Callum Hendry is not a number 9 in the way you envisage a number 9. The kind of any great number 9, Van Nistelrooy, any of them. He's my theory was that we're playing almost in like a strikerless formation, because we've got 2 wide forwards and we've got Hendry, who's spending more time around the centre circle and halfway line than he is in the final third. But we're winning. Oh, all right, we have lost the game, but we're playing well. His link-up play's always been his strength, and he works hard and he closes people down. As long as you don't get sent off by going over the line again, then I'm perfectly happy for him to play instead of Smith. And I think I don't know if you'd agree, Martin, but I think we maybe got took out of context that at the time it looked like the Smith situation was working, but this is better. This is better.
This is the thing. This is what I'll go back to. I mean, at that time when Gav was mentioning it, I looked at it from the point of view at that time. Look, we couldn't see the future. We didn't know what Hendry was going to bring to the team in the last 5 games that he has. We didn't know Louis Barry was going to come in. He was going to be playing on the left wing. We didn't know Bolton was going to pick up some great form. Where at the moment anything he touches was going to turn to gold. And at that moment where Smith was playing, I think he scored 5 in 6 in games. And for me, any striker that's got that kind of ratio, you're undroppable. That's the way I looked at it. But I totally agree with what Gav's saying. Now, when there was a time where Hendry come in, and actually he scored the odd goal. He's either assisting. If he's not, he's linking up where he's getting back in the ball. He's putting it back out to Bolton to put back in the box to somebody else. He's being involved in a lot of the plays that we're actually scoring from. And you're correct, Gav. Whilst we've got Bolton and Barry, and don't get me wrong, Hendry's no Usain Bolt, but he's quicker than Smith. So whilst we've got pacey people on the wings, we need to have somebody who can at least keep up to some degree. And I think his link-up play. Smith has got good attributes, which is different to Hendry. He can hold the ball up. He can win. It'd be interesting to see what happens against Stevenage when you've got somebody like, look, there's many great centre-halves, but you've got a physical battle with Pejani. And I don't think he's going to change just for that reason, because what we do know about Pitch, for everything that he's good in the air, and he's got 7 goals this season, and this is going to drift into the Stevenage review, but he's not very quick on the turn.
He's not good on the turn at all, no.
So I wouldn't change it for that reason, just to win the aerial battles. But as you saw against Doncaster, we got to 3-1. We wanted to not sit back, but we wanted to try and protect the lead and see the game out. Smith comes on for the corners against us, just to be a bit of a nuisance up front. And so for anybody, just to clarify, anybody that wants to have a moan saying that, I'm banging the drum for Smith, I don't. I'm agreeing with what Gav's saying. Hendry should be playing. So there you go.
But I also agreed what you're saying, because he was in form, and end of the day, it was a no-brainer to play him. I remember saying, it was saying for future games he can't stay playing. That's what I was getting at. It had to change. But you was right. He had to play with scoring. Every touch he had was going in, off his bum, off his head, off his back, off his tiptoes, whatever.
It doesn't matter how they go in, is it? So
no, exactly.
Rousey, because obviously Danny and Gav have both had a sort of an opinion on Smith and Hendry and that side, and obviously you've been a little bit quiet on that. I'm going to throw this one with you. So what was very surprising to me yesterday, I was flicking through my Facebook post because I'm super popular because I've got 2 friends on there, and up popped a signing for Salford, and I was like, I wasn't expecting a signing. I was thinking transfer window's done, not expecting. And then I saw the name Adrian Mariappa, and I thought, rings a bell, that name. I was trying to picture where he's from, and the first thing you do in it, Wikipedia, where do you play, son? What you're offering? What position do you play? Go for it, Rousey.
I remember him. Yeah, I know he didn't pull up any trees in the Premier League, but I think he's got 19 or 20 appearances for Watford. I do actually remember him, because I think Newcastle were after signing him 2017, 2018 season. So if Newcastle are after you, you're one of the best players in the Premiership, aren't you? But no, yeah, look, I don't know too much about him. I do vaguely remember him back in the day for Watford. Obviously, Watford weren't great because they got relegated, I think, one of those seasons. But to have a player with that experience, and I'd say that caliber of player just probably shifts mentality in a positive way. Having that, it's like Nathan Pond, when he came, he was 2 and 3 leagues above where Salford were at when he came in, in his experience and stuff like that. And I think he's that kind of signing. I think he's solid. I don't think much will get past him in the air. He's a big lad. I think he's a lot. I know he's getting on a bit now in his career, but I think for the physique that he will have as an international footballer and an ex-Premier League player and Championship player, I think he'll be. I can't, unless I'm absolutely wrong and he's a donkey. Now, I can't see anything but positivity coming from it. Like I said, the experience he'll bring from now to the end of the season in a crucial time, crunch period. Like I've just said there, the next 3 games are all teams that are above us. That knowledge and that experience and what he will bring to the lads in and around him, I just think will just ooze confidence in that back 4, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping more than anything, but I do think he will bring that. I think having someone that's been at the top level and knows how to get through situations like this, what Salford are in, because we've not actually been in this position before where we are in the playoffs, you know, and wanting to maintain that and possibly get into that automatic spot. Yeah, I think it's a cracking signing. I really, really do, and I hope he starts tomorrow. And yeah, I think it's nothing but good will come from it.
I think what I've seen on Facebook, I've not, usually you either get the who or the that's the waste or anything. Actually, I've not seen anything like that on Facebook. It's been positive, nothing but positive. Now, I think one of the things is he's 35, 36, I believe. I think he's 36, but hopefully, Mariappa, if you're watching, hey, come on.
Adrian Mariappa watches this podcast.
Right, if you go back to what Rousey said at the start, we were saying, well, he played for Watford, but they were rubbish and what have you have. To be honest, that's a good thing because he had a lot of defending practice, didn't he?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So playing in the Premier League, getting battered every week, it's good practice for a defender. It's for a striker up front. It's absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful. But as a defender or a keeper, you're involved. You're getting your money's worth, aren't you? You might not want to be getting beat 3-4-5-0 and stuff, but at least you're having a day out, aren't you? You're getting like a runabout. So that's a positive thing.
It's like a goalkeeper going, I want my team to win, but I hope we play shit today, so I've got loads of shots.
So I'm busy.
Honestly, I've been there. I know you want your team to win deep down, but you kind of go, but I don't want to stand there doing nothing. I want to be making saves, get man of the match. But
also, can I add this one? So let's not get carried away. For me, what for him to succeed, he needs to go to his head, get all that Premier League stuff out of it and stuff. He needs to go, and League 2 is different than Premier League. He needs to go, I'm going on that pitch. I've got experience, but I'm about to do the basics. Just do the basics. If the ball needs booted into Rose Head, boot it into Rose Head, whatever it is. Don't get rid of that Premier League stuff and Watford and whatsoever. You just come, and I think he probably, like Rousey said, he could be that push which gets us promoted. But like I said, he's got to basically do the basics. Everyone around him get the basics done, and I think it will make us a better team.
If I'm Ryan Leake or Theo Vassell, and I know I've got a Premier League player at the side of me,
yeah.
You watch what they're doing. You copy them. You imitate their game. You learn from them, and that's what I mean. I just think that those lads that are around him will be doing that. And let's have it right. If we've been suspect anywhere, it's been in defence. So I just think it's whether he plays or not, even in training and week in week out, just having that caliber of player in your training session. I'm not saying he's world class and he's brilliant, but he's an ex-Premier League player. He should be better than what we've got. He should be. So learn from him. You've got now how many games? 9 games. You've got 3 months of having that type of player in and around your camp day in, day out. Sap as much knowledge from him as you possibly can. Get that experience in how he plays the game and learn from him. And that's what I said. I can't see it being anything but good. Or I hope it isn't anything but good.
He looks like he's definitely an old-fashioned centre half. He loves a battle. He loves a battle, but he reads the ball. He can win the ball. He can jump in front of the attacker, nip the ball away. That's if he's a little bit, as athletic as he used to be when he was younger. But certainly he's got that experience. League 2 football, is different from Premier League, and one of the differences, it will be a little bit slower. Now, obviously, he's not played Premier League football recently. I think his last club was Burton Albion in League One. However, one thing we haven't had at that back is somebody really dictating and leading by example at that back. There's nobody really. So I know we've said, oh, you know, we've heard maybe Vassell might have shouted once or twice. There's nobody really taking that reins on. Touré's going out on international duty, but I tell you what, when he comes back, he will not know what's hitting, because he's going to have somebody at the side of him. If he plays left centre back, wherever it may be, or right centre back, he's going to have this person who's come in. He's just going to take the reins. He's going to take the bull by the horns. He's just going to dictate the back four and then go, you listen to me. I've come here to. He's not come here to sit on the bench. I guarantee. He's going to want to play.
The point I was about to say, because like you say, he's got to play, and I was thinking, well, what's he done recently? And it just reminded me, I read earlier on. So whether it's February or beginning of March, I think it was February, he's been training with Swindon. Swindon thought they signed him. So I think he's had 2, 3, 4 weeks training with Swindon. They were hoping to that they sign him, and obviously Salford's butted in and got him. So Swindon's obviously got him match ready, I would expect. And they know mug Swindon. Swindon's been League One to League Two and whatsoever. They know what it is. They've been higher, obviously, as well. But they're a League One, League Two outfit, which they don't mess about. They're not about just say, come along, lad, let's have a few. Don't kick him too hard and whatever. They'll put him straight in the action in training and what have you.
Well,
so he's going ready, I think.
Big thank you to Jody Morris for getting the match sharp ready to go for Saturday for us.
Yeah, you caught me.
Let's just move it forward, because we're I was keeping an eye on time, but I got carried away. 9
minutes left.
We've got two games left this month. I'm gonna advertise these two games as massive games for us, because they are all right. I would say Stockport's bigger than the Stevenage game, just purely because realistically, Stevenage is second. Are we going to catch Stevenage? Possibly not. But Stockport is the one that we really need to get the 3 points against. But however, I actually think both games are away. In my opinion, I actually think Stevenage is probably going to be the easier of the two. Even though Stevenage, I don't know why. I think it's maybe the northwest sort of derby to it. I don't know. But I think the Stevenage will probably be an easier game for us compared to Stockport County. Don't need to sort of talk about each game individually, but let's just talk about the two games as an overall. What's expected? How do we think? Is Mariappa going to come in? How is he going to fit in? Who's going to be playing left back, because Touré's not there? And what we think?
I guess we'll let Dan talk about the players. He's been quiet there, but I wanted to add something, because I've been making some notes and everything today. I was like getting proper prepared, because I was feeling like Rousey. And so I won't talk about the players who I think will play, because, like I say, I think like Dan's been a little quiet this last few minutes. We'll give him that one. So you've got a couple of minutes. Get ready, Dan. But at the beginning of the season, Rousey, because Martin's now left the house.
He has. He's left. He's left the building.
I think I mentioned towards the end of the season, as long as you don't lose more than 12 games, you're in the mix at the end of the season. If you're there and you've not lost more than 12 games, you're in the mix. We're currently on 12 losses. So for me, the remainder of the season is basically we've got to not lose another game, in theory. And I think we've got to win 5 and draw 4. So drawing against Stevenage, drawing against Stockport isn't a bad result in either game, in personal opinion. Swindon, Mansfield, Salford, I think it's our battle between them two who's getting the playoff place. Although we have a great run, we could actually go to third. But that's what I'm saying. As long as we win 5, draw 4, we're in the mix. There you go. Can't lose.
Can't lose it.
Gav,
Can't lose it.
Danny, you thinking?
What am I thinking?
Who's going to win us these games, Dan?
The confidence comes that I feel we've been, apart from losing against Crewe, I feel since the Mansfield game, same team basically, always playing pretty well. I don't see any reason why we're not going to hold our own. You're not given match predictions there. No one's given any scores yet, which I'm always loath to do that. But I feel confident. I feel like we're going to cause both of these next two opponents problems, because I know I mentioned it in my own podcast that you thankfully, I really appreciate you plugging it before. But Doncaster have played, was it 3-4-3 all this year, and then for us they changed to back four. That tells me that other teams look at playing Salford and go, oh shite, you know what I mean? How can we stop these red arrows coming down the side? So I actually think that as much as these other two teams are above us in the league, I think form-wise we're looking good, and I do think we've got a number of threats that they're going to be worried about. But I can never call it. It's just I just never get it right, so I won't call it.
What midfielder we about go with, Dan, do you reckon?
Okay, well, I don't know whether I've written this anywhere or said it anywhere, but my theory is if Watson is fit, which again I know he's been injured a little while. He got a bit of a knock a few weeks ago.
3 more weeks he's got, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I had a theory then, but I may have written it somewhere that I would have actually kept what we're doing now with the Mallon and Watt partnership, and dropped Galbraith out and put Watson as the attacking midfielder. It's probably a little bit of a weird way of doing it, because probably Mallon's more suited to that, because as Gav was saying before, I could run past Mallon, I think, at least going the other way. But his passing is absolutely incredible. I know that was a fluffed save that actually his goal recently, where the keeper should have had it. But the way he struck it was so beautiful. Yeah. When you look at the difference between that and going to give him a bit of stick, Louis Barry having 15 shots towards the top corner. It's like, it's a different world. The actual technique of strike, Callum Hendry, his technique of striking is class, So I forgot exactly where I'm going with this, but my midfield, if Watson was fit, I'd have him back. I'd have Galbraith there. I think he's been too quiet for me. I think his head's been he's been below my radar, where I've not really noticed him for about 2 or 3 games. But if Watson's out, I don't see any reason to change it. Although I think Lund had a good run. I think he helps us get back into form.
Yeah, great.
There we go.
Rousey, how do you what you saying? Just before I come to you, Rousey, I've got a top stat for you in a minute. I'm excited by this, but Rousey, go for it.
What am I doing? Are we on predictions?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I want to sit on the fence on this one today, because I just look.
I'm not. Yeah, again, don't want to
Smith
jinx
or
it
Hendry.
a little bit.
Smith or Hendry.
Oh no, yeah, for me, or Hendry all day.
I'm back in the Smith camp.
I know you are. Yeah, I've said it. I've said it on numerous occasions. I think Hendry is probably our most talented, knowledgeable player we have. I think his technical ability is class. I think it's took over half a season for the team to get up to speed with him. I think having players like Mallon and Barry in the squad now, latecomers, I think they kind of understand that type of player a bit better. And those last few games have shown massively. They just read his runs. They read his passes a lot better. And I just think with them few players are feeding off each other quite well. So for me, I think Hendry gets my pick. I know Smith does a very, very good job for us, but he is a very old school attacker, in my opinion. Big lad, good in the air, holds the ball up like we've already gone over. But for me, the modern way of playing football, the Neil Wood way, if you will, is on the ground, quick, pacey, intelligent play. And I think Hendry, when he's in form, because I think he has been out of that for bits of this season, all of it maybe, in my opinion, not his fault. Some of it, yes. But yeah, I think he gets the nod for me. But yeah, I'm not going to give you score predictions, but just don't lose the games, please. Please don't lose. I don't care whether we draw the next 2, just don't lose.
Well, one thing I just looked at when Danny was just talking about, when he was talking about the games and just looking at the form and looking at the last 5 games in the league. So a couple of things that I've just looked now, a couple of things that have kind of stood out to me. So if I look at the top five, there's 5 teams here: Carlisle, Northampton, Salford, Stevenage, Leyton Orient. There's 5 teams that are in the top 7. And then you go into Sutton, Harrogate, Gillingham, Barrow, Grimsby. Again, teams that are not in that top 7. But Bradford down at 11th, Stockport 16th. Okay, and then Mansfield 19th. So one thing that I was happy with is we are seen to be, at this stage of the season, this is where you really need to start putting a bit of a run of games. And Mansfield are yet to do that. Stockport County are not doing that at the moment. Bradford City are hit and miss, and it's looking good for us. But the stat that kind of stood out for me, last 5 games, and this reaffirms what I was saying before about how we're scoring for fun, but we're conceding. We're the only team in the league in the last 5 games that scored double goals, or double-digit goals. We scored 15. There's only two teams. 2 teams have scored 9 goals. Swindon and Carlisle. We scored 6 goals more than the next team down from us. So evidently, the last 5 goals we're outscoring massively. But we are the second most. We've conceded the second most amount of goals in the last 5 games in the league.
In other words, our defence is shit.
Yeah.
So
Mariappa.
Yeah, but you can understand maybe that's where they've looked. They've gone, look, these stats are out there. Look, we think we've seen it first. No, they're all over it. I'm sure Neil Wood and all his team are all over it stats. But they're probably looking at going, if we can just trim those goals down even a little bit, even 20%, we'll get playoffs because we know we can score goals. But the only concern is, if the luck doesn't go our way and we still concede those goals, we could start dropping points. So, interesting enough, just looking at Stevenage, we're 3rd in the form table. Stevenage are 4th. Stevenage, 10 points, but they've only scored 7 goals, less than half than what we have, and they conceded 5. If we look down at Stockport, Jesus, this stat's even better. Stockport County, 6 points in the last 5 games. They've only scored 2 goals in the last 5 games. That's the same as Colchester at the bottom of the form table. Them and Colchester have scored the least goals in the last 5 games, and they've conceded 2 goals. So again, they're the polar opposite. Hard to score against, but they're not scoring. So that for me, that's go back to that Stockport game. That's why I think that's going to be our hardest game, because we're a team that can score. They're a team that don't concede, and maybe, I don't know. That's just my thought. That's why I don't want to do predictions, because my head's all over the place. But I'll take a breath. God. Sorry, Chad.
I don't even know where we're up to now after that.
I haven't got a clue what's happening. No. What's this? Is this like alcohol anonymous?
Me too much.
Is this an AA meeting? Cheers, lads.
Brilliant.
I think to sum up, guys, is to Danny's point there. It's so easy to look at Stevenage and Stockport going, these are hard games, and I'm sure they are, but they'll be fearing us as much as maybe we're concerned about them, maybe, if not more, because any team that's in rain form, scoring goals for pretty much fun at the moment, they're going to be on their guard. They're going to be sitting back. They're going to be a bit more cautious in their approach either way, which will suit us down to the ground. So, providing we get the first goal, however, shown when we concede first, we can pull it back. I'd like us to score first and put them on the back foot even more. Maybe score first, because they're being cautious. They have to open up a little bit more, which leaves more gaps for Barry and Bolton to get into. So,
can I give Neil Wood a bit of advice?
Go on, he listens to the show, Dan.
As we know, he watches. So, again, I've mentioned before, I think it was in my own podcast, that against Doncaster for the last 15 minutes, when we brought Morton and Smith on, we dropped into a 5-2-1-2, which is like, okay, so Bolton became like a right back. So we eliminated one threat going forward. I just thought, what was the thinking here? Yeah, we don't want them to come back into the game, but I just don't want us against good teams, of which Doncaster didn't look to be. I don't want us to sit back in the last quarter of an hour and just hold on to stuff, because I think we'll come a cropper. I think that's bad. It's just bad tactics, in my opinion. Just putting more players in your own penalty area doesn't mean you're not going to concede. It just means the other team are going to get momentum. And if they've got any decent players, which Doncaster didn't appear to have, then we're in trouble. So that's my advice, Neil. Take it or leave it.
Well, they say the best form of defence is attack. So
Yeah.
I understand what you. There's a good point you've made there, Dan. I suppose maybe, I don't know, because I don't have wood on speed dial, but I think because he had his fingers burnt against Crewe, I think he probably just dropped a few more people in behind and kept a narrow front, but just tried to make it compact as compact as possible, rightly or wrongly. But one thing we'll have to say there is our manager's judged by results, and if he got the win, we have to praise him on that. Like if he gets it wrong, like he did against Crewe, he's going to get the criticism. So it's one of them. It's a good point. I understand. I get it, but it's look. If he makes a wrong decision, we still win, and we get promoted to League One. Then I won't tell you what I'll do. It's weird.
I think another thing, another thing which is important to point out, we've got 9 games left, and like I said, I'm saying we need five wins and 4 draws, something like that whatsoever. The most important thing for me is we all, as Salford City fans, need to get behind the manager and the team 110%. These are the games which matter now. These are the games which get you promoted. It might be nice winning 3-4-0 earlier on in the season and stuff. Fantastic. But these are the games which are important. These are the games which make winners and losers. Let's get behind the team. Let's get behind the manager. And like I say, it's every fan, every dog, every cat. Let's get behind the team.
Gav, you're right, in fairness, because to be fair, what we need to understand as Salford fans is the team, Neil Wood, the management, the players, have got us into a position where we're 9 games out, and it's making us excited. Because look, do you know what? At the last game of the season, and we're just short of playoffs. Of course, it's going to be disappointing. And I go back to, I know we want success, but for me, again, I want us to go up before anybody starts going, oh, you don't have any ambition. I want us to go up first and foremost, but I want to be entertained as well. And something that we've not had in past seasons, you can't have your cake and eat it. We talked about, it gets to a part of the season where you take a boring 1-0 win, points matter. We've all said that, and I agree. But we're being entertained at the same time, and I think that's Neil Wood, that's the players on the pitch that are giving us that entertainment. And you know what? Look, what will happen will happen. But I think we're on the right road in an area where we've been unknown. I know we had a bit of a run with Bowyer, and it went down to last couple of games, but this is really a time where we're in form, coming in at form at the right time. There's teams around us that are dropping points. And I'm looking for every game. I'm looking forward to watching us play. I'm really excited by the way we're playing. And if we can get 4 points the next 2 games, I'm really gonna have a party.
I'd love it if we beat them. Love it.
I love it.
I'm not bothered with playing rubbish, to be honest. We just need the results. It's that time of season. We need the results.
Yeah.
And if you like going to football and you like watching fantastic football, and the only way where you'll get behind the team is by us playing good, then you need a few runs like me.
You do.
Have a few runs and get behind that team.
Any other drink? That has to be rum, vodka, whiskey, lager.
Drinks are available, Gav.
We want a sponsorship from a big rum company.
You see when Danny pulled the water, because he pulled the water to his mouth and it blurred out the label.
Blurred out the label.
See how good it is.
I've seen that.
Doesn't blur out the Heineken, though, does it?
Yeah.
No blur available. Right, gents, we'll just go on, won't we? So the fans, if you've listened to this, if you got to this point, then I feel sorry for you.
I do.
But it's a good opportunity for us to catch up, guys. apologies if we've got some proper fans out there that love the podcast and you've not heard an episode for a couple of weeks. Apologies. Sometimes life does get in the way. No excuse. But hey, none of you has wanted to contribute to the podcast, so take it or leave it. You know. Yeah, exactly. Can't have your cake and eat it. You know, you didn't want to put a couple of pounds in the pocket for us to get some equipment and do it properly. So there's me rant over and done with. But you've probably not got this far anyway.
Are you all right? Are you all right, Kevin?
Oh, my head's blown. I need something to eat. I'm getting hungry.
How many beers have you had?
I don't know.
1.5. Oh, it don't take much, mate. I'll be windmilling in a minute.
Don't have the rum then. Don't have the rum.
Gents, Danny, Gav, Rousey, thanks very much, chaps. Thanks for your opinions. It's been good. It's always a pleasure, never a chore. I probably won't see you now the next home game because I might be on holiday at some period of time.
Wow.
Won't tell you when. But guys, enjoy the football. If you're going to the away games, Stevenage, Stockport, do us proud, sing loud and proud. And let's get the points in the bag, chaps. Let's go.
Cheers, Coops.
No worries. See you guys.
See you, Dan. See you, Gav.
See you later.
Bye.